Okay guys, this tutorial is for one of my paper wreaths. I will be honest, it's not my original design. I saw it in a magazine many years ago and made one manually. I didn't like the way it went together, so I redesigned it myself. And subsequently redesigned it again so it could be cut on a Cricut machine, whether it Maker Air 2. Without having to hand cut every strip, which is how I used to do it. Anyway, this is one I made earlier. Hurrah. I'm just going to move that out of the way and explain all the parts. Okay, so the one I'm going to show you today is just a two-colour one. There are two projects, one's got two colours and one's got four colours. Now you can cut the two-colour project, it's exactly the same cut. And you could always, once you've got your strips, use the other side of one and get four colours. The reason I'm doing a two-colour one is because it's easier. It's quicker to put together and I don't need to worry about matching anything up or getting my colours sorted out, and that will make sense when you come to make one. But anyway, the rest of the parts. You've got your base part. There's two parts. One's got all these circles and lines on it. Obviously you want to see that. That's going to help you line everything up. You've got another two circles that cut out of one of the colours of the decorative cardstock, and you just glue them together. This will be going on this way round, and that's just for to finish off the centre. That's all that is. Strips. Of all your strips, you've got 32 wide ones which go on the outside, 32 not quite so wide ones that go in the centre, middle ring, and then narrower ones that go on the inner ring. Now, in the inner ring, you've only got 24, which is why there's these circles here, so they don't necessarily line up with the outer rings. The reason for that is because it's a much smaller circle. They're obviously narrower. If you did the wide strips, you wouldn't get a decent look. So the strips get narrower as you progress into the circle. So you start by taking half of your strips of each size and looping them over like that. Bit of hot glue there and just hold them together. So you'll end up with a pile of loops just like this. You just then set them aside and you're starting with your outer ring first, which is the widest loop. But you don't start with the loops, you start with the straight bits. Now it just so happens the paper I'm using has got a pattern on it that just looks like a Christmas tree. Almost photograph-like, but not shiny. And I thought that might be quite good for this wreath. That might just look like a real wreath. I'm hoping anyway. I've never made one using this paper. I've mentioned in the sort of information that it's a good idea to have an A2 cutting mat with a grid on it because it will help you line everything up. And I'll explain why. I've lined the circle up with a 10cm square. So there's your centre lines. That will help you line things up. And basically you just start by attaching your strips face down. Again, that will become clear, and just working all your way around. And like I say, the lines will help you line everything up. Okay, and then it's just a case of a bit of hot glue. And sticking it on, making sure it's lined up, using the circle as a guide, just like that. Because I'm doing a two-colour one, it's going to be quite easy for me to just work my way around, but ideally you want to work opposite sides. You'll find it easier that way. So I'll just do the opposite side as if I was doing a four-colour one. And just line that up there. Like so. And you just work your way around. Now annoyingly I accidentally switched my hot glue gun off, but it seemed to be okay. I switched it back on, it hadn't cooled down too much. Oh, see, because I'm talking to you, made a slight error with both of these, so we'll just have to glue them again. You probably noticed I'd made that mistake. I'm also aware that I may have my head in the way in some of these shots, so forgive me. And I also mentioned you want quite a lot of space to do this, and you can possibly see why. You won't be able to see the entire space, but it's almost like 3 feet across there, so you're going to want a lot of room to be doing this. Now what I find is best to do is, once you've got your this cross on, just turn it so you're on to the next one. Again, line it up, so you'll be looking to line this line up here, if you can see that, and just working your way around. Now you're probably wondering why we're not just putting the loops on as loops, but again, that will become apparent once I'm further bound. So just to reiterate, I did make a mistake putting that 2 on against the wrong circle. Incredibly silly of me, but hey ho. All fixable. So you're just working your way around until you'll have 16 of these in place. I'm not going to let you sit and watch me doing all of these, by the way. I'm just going to do the first circle, and then I'll speed up the video for the rest. I've not gone far enough, look. So I'll get that lined up as well. But I thought I should at least do the first ring fairly slowly. I mean, I've marked this as an advanced project, but really it's maybe not necessarily beginner, but possibly intermediate. I just marked it as advanced because there's a lot of cutting for a start, so it takes about maybe an hour to cut, and that was on a Maker 3. So it's going to be a bit slower on the Maker and slower still on the Air or Air 2. And then the complicated part really is getting your colours lined up, especially when it comes to the middle ring, the inner ring, because there's only 24 rather than 32 strips, and it just means lining everything up is not quite so easy. But again, when we come to the centre, I'll explain that. Okay, and then we'll just turn that again. So we're nearly there with this bit. And if you're wondering why we're doing this face down, again, that will become clear just shortly. And I think you really want to use hot glue for this. I don't think there's any other glue that would grab so quickly and dry solid. The other thing you really want to do is to use very heavy cardstock. This is 280 GSM, £110. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. 280 GSM, because if you don't use thick card, when you hang it on the wall, you'll get, I don't know what you would call it, loop flop maybe, something like that anyway. Okay, so that's this. The strips are all on now. So you then want your loops, and you just pop your loops on like so. So we'll just assume that I'm gluing these here, and then I can pause the video and then come back, and they will be, hey presto, they'll be glued on. So you just work your way around, popping them all on. So I'll pop them all on so you can see. And you can possibly see how it's kind of starting to take shape now, or how it would take shape. So they're just ready to get glued in place. So I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back in a second. You won't even know I've gone. Okay, that's all my loops now glued in place. I'm just going to close my window there. So it's then a case of the bits that aren't looped yet is looping them over and then gluing them in place like that. So just a bit of hot glue. Probably can't see the hot glue, of course. And then just get that lined up, and just make sure it lines up with the loops either side. Just hold it there, and time you just work your way around again. Again, just making sure everything lines up. You know what, to be honest, it probably won't ever line up perfectly. I will say that. But you know what, it doesn't matter if it's not 100% perfect. I think the first time I made one, I wanted to just get it lined up like 100% perfectly. And actually it made no difference really. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause again, finish this, and then we'll come back and do the centre ring. Now, as if by magic, that's the outer ring now done. So we do the same with the middle ring. And you need, for that one you need your slightly narrower strips, but not the narrowest ones, that's for the very middle. And because we're doing a 2-colour one, this is much easier. You're going to line up with the white ones. And again, use the lines to help you. And just line them up. You'll see how that lines up there. And that one, from the wrong way round. Going the right way round, what am I saying? That one would line up with that one, and so on until you work all the way around. And it's just a case of gluing these in place, as you've done with the rest, using the line as a guide. Just making sure that's lined up, like that. You don't need to worry about turning the wreath this time, because you're lining up with the strips underneath anyway. And like I say, you just work your way around. Making sure it's lined up. Or at least it's lined up as best it can be. Okay, I will pause, I will finish gluing these and I'll be back in a second. There we are, by the magic of camera. You now see that all the strips are now placed on. So it's then a case of adding the loops, exactly the same way as what you did on the outer ring. They just get glued in place. So I'm just going to start actually. I'm not going to leave these out dry. Again, just lining them up as you go. I wouldn't be tempted to put a line of hot glue and then try and stick them all down, because the glue will start to dry and you want them like properly adhered, not just lightly gripped on. But you'll see I'm pushing them down, because obviously it's quite thick cardstock there by the time you get these rings on. But that's fine. All adds to the strength of it actually. And these will last forever actually. I've got one that I made 4 years ago. It still comes out every Christmas. And still going strong. So I'll probably just pause the video in a second. I'll work my way around, and then by the magic of camera and video, I'll be back and that will be completed. Okay, as you can see, that's the loops now done. It's then just a case of taking the unlooped parts and then gluing them in place as well, until you've worked all your way around. So I will start doing that. Again, just taking care that everything lines up as best you can. Pushing it down. I'm not entirely sure I'm liking the 2-colour ones. I think I prefer 4 colours. I also actually really like it when you do the colours completely random. But it really is up to you. You can also do them in any kind of design theme you wanted. I mean, I did a Halloween one once using black and orange. I just added some sort of Halloween images cut out from just Design Space images actually. And that was pretty cool. That's still going strong as well. That was done about 3 years ago. And it still comes out every Halloween. So as you can see, it gets easier the closer you get to the middle. So I will just pause again and you'll see this magically completed in about 3 seconds. Okay, there we are, that's the central ring completed. Inner ring, again exactly the same way, just remember as I said you've got less strips than you have in the other 2 rings. But use the circles to guide you with this one, don't use the lines. The reason the circles are there and the lines is because originally when I did this it was just the lines, but to try and shorten all that lines and get them all lined up again, it was easier just to add circles and just tell everyone just to ignore the lines. What you can do as well, I mean I've drawn these lines and circles on so that you can hopefully see them better on the camera. You wouldn't have seen the score lines at all, but obviously you could score them if you don't have a pen that you can use. But you'll see kind of where they need to go, and you're kind of, they won't always line up with what's underneath because obviously there's less of these. There's 32 of the middle ring, there's only 24 of these. But you just work your way around and do take care not to overlap the circle, the cutout circle. There is a bit of leeway on the central piece, but not much. So like I say, just work your way around. I'll just do a couple and then again I'll pause. Okay, so I'm going to pause again and I'll come back once I've got all these in place. Now you'll notice I've started doing the loops as well. Again, it's exactly the same as the other rings. Just lining them up and lining them up with your unlooped parts, your strips, and just making sure they're pressed right down. You may see them sort of start to buckle slightly, but that's fine. It's not a problem at all. And just work your way around. Now what I'll do just for speed just now, once you've got all your loops done, you would just fold these over and glue them in place. So I'm going to do a couple of these, and once again I will disappear and then come back. You won't even notice I'm gone, of course. But being honest, I think I might have to go and eat very soon and then come back and finish this off. But we'll see. But I'm hoping you can kind of really see how this is taking shape. I'll just work my way around. So again, I'll just pause this and I will see you shortly. There now, as I said, I'll be back shortly. I think it was probably maybe a second and a half for you guys. That's all the loops, everything's glued on now. We just need to put the center ring in, which just kind of sits in there, hot glued on. It is cut, so this cutout is smaller than this, so that you don't see any sort of overlap, which is what you want. And you just hot glue this in place. Just a line of hot glue. Not too much, you don't want it obviously spewing out. And just push that down and hold it there just till it's grabbed and dry. And that's good to go there. Now I did say in the materials list that you might want a small bit of cardboard, about 9 inches square I think I say, that you can cut into a circle, and you can attach that to the back here just for extra strength. If you want to, you don't need to. It's totally optional. But you'll see that there's a hook here for hanging. Whether it's a nail in the wall, a screw, or an actual hook. And that's it. So that is a paper Christmas wreath. I'm quite liking the 2-colour one now, I must admit. Just a little bit different to the others. I did a blue one as well, which was for my failed video. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier on. This is the 3rd time I've had to do a video here. Not so keen in the blue, it's a little bit pale for me, I think. I like these sort of Christmassy colours. And there's loads you could do with these, to be honest. I mean, one thing I thought of was maybe perhaps cutting sort of stars out of some of the strips. and that would show the colour, the sort of the rearmost colour through. You could even add another little loop inside that loop in sort of glitter card or something, and you would see that through the star. All sorts of things you could do. Could you add lights? Potentially, yes. I don't see why not, actually. You could add the lights before you loop everything over, and then the whole thing would light up. That might be pretty cool, actually. I'm going to have to try that. Maybe later on in the year. I'm actually fed up making these wreaths now. When you've made 3 in as many weekends, it's too much. Overall, like I said, I think it takes about an hour to cut, depending on which one you go for. If you could do the 2 colour one or the 4 colour one, about an hour. Allow an hour for cutting anyway. I was cutting and then looping at the same time, but if it's the first one you're doing, I would cut everything first, get your colours sorted out before you start looping, in case you loop something that you shouldn't, because you don't want to loop too many, otherwise it just won't work properly. And to put it together, that's probably taken me maybe 30 to 45 minutes overall. I don't know how long the video is yet because I've not checked, obviously, but I'll soon find out. So I would allow 2 hours for this project maximum, but you should be able to do it in an hour. So if you've done one and you do a second one, you'll know what you can start looping and what you can start, just leaving and start putting together. And probably start with doing the craft card bit for the backing, your wide loops, and then you can sort of crack on, basically. But I just like to have everything set out before I start gluing things together normally. So I might be working on something else at the same time. But that's it. Of course, any questions, as always, just shout out. I'm more than happy to help. And I'd like to say Merry Christmas, but it is only July, so I'm not going to. But yeah, have fun.